Did you know about the extreme importance of vitamin D in all of our lives? And did you know how necessary it is not only for our physical health, but also for our emotional balance and our spirit? Thanks to the Zen story, you will discover how its deficiency is an absolute danger that you should be aware of. Well, if you want to find out more about this topic, get ready to immerse yourself in a story that will enlighten your mind and stay until the end, because you will understand what they never told you about vitamin D. But before continuing, if you are not yet among us, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to know when we publish new content for your spiritual growth. In the Buddhist monastery of the elderly and wise monk Kan, life flowed peacefully, surrounded by the age-old wisdom of the monks and the serenity of the surrounding nature. One day, as the sun rose over the horizon, Kan gathered his disciples under the shade of an ancient tree, and with his calm, deep voice, he began to speak about the importance of vitamin D. Vitamin D is more than just a chemical in our body, Kan said, his gaze fixed on a horizon. It is a source of inner light, a connection with nature and with the universe itself. Kan told them about an ancient Buddhist text that spoke of the importance of light in the search for inner truth. Just as sunlight dispels darkness, so vitamin D can dissolve the clouds of confusion and sadness in our minds, Kan said. Vitamin D is an organism nutrient that plays a fundamental role in regulating the functioning of the major systems of the human body, added the monk. Our ancestor monks, thanks to their immense wisdom, had already understood what the most recent scientific studies have arrived at, that if vitamin D is missing, our body and mind become ill. The disciples listened enraptured, immersed in the words of their mentor. A vitamin D deficiency, continued the monk, can cause not only physical problems, but also mental and emotional imbalance. You should know that sunlight is medicine for the soul and body, he said. It fills us with vital energy, nourishes us with joy, and envelops us, giving us a sense of inner peace. And it is precisely sunlight that is the main source of vitamin D that our body uses. If we don't expose ourselves enough to sunlight, we have to deal with a series of negative consequences. Master Kan, what are the consequences of a deficiency of this vitamin? What happens when we don't get enough? Asked one of the disciples worriedly. The monk, directing his gaze towards the floor, replied, "The consequences can be serious and numerous, my dears. Vitamin D deficiency can lead to a variety of health problems that tend to worsen if left unaddressed. It is essential for the absorption of calcium and phosphorus, two minerals that keep bones and teeth strong. Furthermore, it is necessary for muscles, the brain, the heart, and other organs whose correct functioning guarantees a good quality of life. And since not everyone is able to get the adequate amount of vitamin D, they often experience symptoms and health problems that tend to worsen if this deficiency is not remedied." But what are these symptoms and health problems? Vitamin D deficiency can cause muscle and bone weakness, depression, inflammation, and pain, dental problems. And again, high blood pressure, states of fatigue, increased body weight, asthma, high cholesterol, flu and colds, intestinal disorders, and excessive sweating. Now do you understand why each of us must pay close attention to our deficiency? And do you understand why, if you feel certain symptoms, you have to take action? Kan asked, looking into the eyes of the disciples. To better understand what he was talking about, Kan told them about a monk at the monastery who, after spending time in meditation under the rays of the morning sun, had experienced a profound inner transformation. Sunlight is a reflection of our own inner nature, Kan said. When we immerse ourselves in it, we get closer to our true essence and discover the wisdom and compassion that reside within us. To make the concept even clearer, he told of another young monk who, after spending months in seclusion without ever seeing the light of the sun, began to suffer from chronic fatigue and depression. Lack of sun exposure can cause vitamin D deficiency and have serious consequences on our health, Han said. Always remember that we need sunlight to nourish our body and soul. The monks listened attentively, catching every word of their master. Can continued to explain that although sun exposure is critical for the synthesis of vitamin D in the skin, there are also other sources from which we can obtain this precious substance. Some foods are naturally rich in vitamin D, he said. Oily fish, such as salmon and sardines, are particularly rich in this vitamin. Egg yolks and cheeses can also contribute to adequate intake. However, Can warned his disciples that foods alone are almost never sufficient to ensure an optimal level of vitamin D in the body. Furthermore, he added, there are also substances that can interfere with the absorption of vitamin D. Excessive alcohol consumption, for example, can reduce the body's ability to absorb this vitamin. The same thing goes for some drugs and many substances we come into contact with. The monks nodded, considering their master's words, and Can continued to share practical advice on how to avoid a vitamin D deficiency and maintain it in the right percentage. In addition to eating foods rich in vitamin D, it is essential to spend time in the sun, Can added. Taking an early morning walk or spending a couple of hours outdoors can be extremely beneficial to our mental and emotional health.
And before continuing with this story, how about leaving a like and a comment with your opinion? You will help us produce new content every day.
The master, at this point, invited the disciples to be aware of the signals in their body and mind, since these can be indicators of a vitamin D deficiency. Pay attention to your life energy, he said. If you feel tired or down for no apparent reason, it could be a sign that you need more sunlight in your life. Life in the Can monastery flowed peacefully, surrounded by the age-old wisdom of the monks and the serenity of the surrounding nature. However, one day, an unexpected event would shake the peace of the ancient sanctuary. A young nun, Rin, used to spend long hours in meditation in the library hall. One day, while meditating, she suddenly felt overwhelmed by tiredness and weakness. Without understanding what was happening, he retreated to his cell to rest, and when he woke up, he realized that he could no longer move his legs. Terrified, she called for help, and her brothers came immediately. Can, with his usual aplomb, examined the young nun and realized that something serious was happening. Rin has a severe vitamin D deficiency, Can told his disciples. His body has become so weak that he can't even move. The monks panicked. They had never faced a situation like this before. However, Can reassured them and ordered them to find a way to help Rin. So, they decided to take Rin out of her cell and expose her to sunlight all day. Furthermore, they began to give her vitamin D supplements and prepare meals rich in this precious substance. After a few weeks of attentive and loving care, the young nun finally began to show signs of improvement. His strength slowly returned and the light shone in his eyes again. Can watched his disciples with pride as they worked tirelessly to help their fellow nun. This experience reminds us how important it is to pay attention to our health and well-being, Can said. Along the journey each of you will face, remember that life is a precious gift, and we must do everything we can to protect and preserve it. But what does this story teach us? That often the answers to our greatest challenges are under the rays of the sun, in the light that surrounds us, and in the attention we dedicate to the care of our body and our mind. The words we have just heard are a reminder to never take the power of nature and ancient wisdom for granted, and to always be aware of our well-being and health. Whether it is in the warmth of the sun or in paying attention to our food choices, we remember that taking care of our body and our spirit is an act of love towards ourselves. And that, when it comes to vitamin D, we must not underestimate its possible deficiency because the consequences can be very serious. If we feel tired and without energy, let's contact a doctor and try to understand if we need to boost this precious vitamin.